Hi, and welcome back for another Star Wars book review. So, today we are talking about Darksaber, which is the second book in the Callista Trilogy. Though I will say that it doesn't seem to be much of a trilogy. So the first book, Children of the Jedi, was written by Barbara Hambly, okay, and it was super weird. If you're interested, you can check out my previous video. So this is the sequel, written by Kevin J. Anderson, who was the author of the Jedi Academy trilogy, and basically was like, hey Barbara Hambly, I hear that you are writing a trilogy. Can I get in on this? And she's like, yeah, I'll write the first one, and you write the second one, and then I'll write the third one. So he basically took one character from her first book and then just basically wrote a sequel to the stuff that he'd already made. I love it. I love it. I think it's great. Probably because I didn't necessarily enjoy Children of the Jedi all that much. So it's basically the fourth book. Whatever, I'm into it. I think it's cool. The Jedi Academy trilogy, I thought it was dope. So I thought that this book was dope. Got to see more cool characters, man. I mean, what's not to like? So that's my review. If you are interested in reading it, which I would suggest, even if you haven't read the Jedi Academy trilogy, you could read this book by itself. It would, you know, it would do pretty okay as a standalone, actually, because it covers well enough all of the characters that you need to know and the main events. It's a pretty good catch-up book. You could not know anything and read this book and you'd be fine. Yeah, it's good. I'm a fan. The rest of this video, I will be summarizing it, so if you plan on reading it and don't want it spoiled, peace out. Tatooine is where our story begins. So Han and Luke have heard rumors that a bunch of smugglers and criminals have been breaking in to Jabba's old palace because there's some sort of secret there, some sort of treasure, something Jabba had that people are interested in now all of a sudden. So they're going to check it out. But they get into Jabba's palace and they meet some dude, Mazor, who is basically like, oh yeah, Jabba had Imperial codes. That's what these people are after. They're after Imperial codes. So there's that. So Han and Luke are like, well, we're not really sure what to do with that. Luke had another reason for wanting to come to Tatooine, though. So we remember Callista, okay, his love from the first book. So she was saved at the end of the book and got a body because she was a ghost or whatever. Yeah. And the side effect, though, was that she lost all of her force powers. So now they're kind of on a mission to get her force powers back. Actually, Luke and Callista spend most of the book trying to do just that. After receiving this information, Han goes back to Coruscant and Luke goes back to Yavin 4 to his academy and Callista. So at Coruscant, Leia has a meeting with Durga the Hutt. Durga is basically like Jabba, except for he has like a scar on his face and he's, you know, living. But he has requested a meeting with Leia, who's the Chief of State, by the way, basically asking for the New Republic to legitimize his business. Durga arrives on like a floating platform with a bunch of Toril, which have 4 arms and legs. I don't know, I'm picturing monkeys. I'm not sure. And they get spooked and they start running around all over the place, or at least that's how it appears. Now the reader knows that the Toril actually have like a hive mind. So like, kind of like the Borg. A couple of the Toril sneak into the Imperial Information Center and they like put something on a data card and then bring it back to Durga. And Durga's like, well, I guess I'll just let you think about it. You have an open invitation to come to Nal Hutta anytime. You just come and see me anytime. So after he leaves, Leia's like, well, that was kind of suspicious. Really don't think that he was here to set up a business deal. And Han's like, you think? But to find out, they decided that they will in fact take Durga up on his offer to go to Nal Hutta because they're supremely confident that he did not mean it. So they think if they go there that they can somehow surprise some information out of him. Now Nal Hutta is obviously ran by the Hutts, who are all gangsters. That's just their jive. So the moon of Nal Hutta is called Nar Shaddaa, which is called colloquially known as the smuggler's moon, because a bunch of shady stuff happens there. It's also a very cool place in KOTOR, which is Knights of the Old Republic, which is a very old, very cool Star Wars video game if you haven't played it. They decide to go to Nal Hutta while sending Chewie and R2 off to Nar Shaddaa to see if they can't dig up anything over there. Now Durga, the reader knows a show, is up to no good because he, with this little data disk, goes to the Hoth asteroid belt where he has set up like a whole mining operation looking for metals and materials and whatnot with Bevel Lemelisk. Now, Bevel is actually an interesting character. So we know that he worked with Kwizu on the Death Star, right? And he was around the Maw installation. We kind of got that vibe in the Jedi Academy trilogy. We also, throughout this entire book, get to see flashbacks of him interacting with Tarkin and also with the Emperor. And it turns out that Bevel Lemelisk actually, in his current incarnation, is a clone. So the Emperor had killed him gruesomely like 7 times. Okay, like via piranha beetles eating his body, via being shoved out into the vacuum of space. Okay, they poured molten copper all over his body, and then his consciousness was just put into new bodies. It's kind of graphic, actually. So Durga brings this data disk to him and says, when can I get my Death Star? Oh yes, oh yes. The Taural had stolen the Death Star plans from the Imperial Information Center on Coruscant. Now, it completely eludes me why, when Mon Mothma became Chief of State or when the New Republic moved into the Imperial Palace, like, why did nobody think about deleting or erasing those plans forever? Like, whose oversight was that? So Durga hands these plans to Bevel, who is going to make a streamlined version of the Death Star. Instead of a full battle station with quarters and everything, he's going to do a streamlined version. So it's cylindrical, so it only requires like minimal staffing, right? But it has the power core in it, so it can still shoot out the super laser, still destroy planets, and he calls it the Darksaber because it's cylindrically shaped, and when it shoots out its super laser, it looks like a giant lightsaber in space. So it's the Darksaber. Meh, mildly clever, but okay. In the core systems elsewhere, the Empire, or what's left of it, is stirring because Admiral Dala has arrived on the scene. So she was the main villain in the Jedi Academy trilogy, and she is back. We discover she's been trying to like unite what's left of the Empire, talking to all of these different people with no success, because all of the people in power who are left from the Empire don't want to relinquish that power. So basically it's just a lot of infighting. Like, I'm a bigger baddie than you are. I got more ships than you do. It's an Imperial dick swinging contest. Okay. We see her as she's going to meet Warlord Harsk, who is a very short burnt-faced little man. Like, half of his face is burnt, so he's Two-Face, okay? And right as she's going to meet him, he gets attacked by another Imperial faction and is furious. So they hit him, destroy a couple ships, and then scoot away. So he turns around and demands that she lead an attack back on them immediately, because they wouldn't expect it so soon. And she's like, nah, man, I'm not getting involved in your nonsense. And he's like, I outrank you. You're gonna do it. She's like, fine. So she agrees to do it, begrudgingly. And while they're out in battle, kind of even before the battle starts, she takes the ion cannon of her ship and shoots Harsk's ship and makes an announcement to both her fleet and the enemy's fleet that this infighting is nonsense. The New Republic is our enemy. We are not enemies. If anybody wants to come and actually fight for the Empire instead of this shenaniganry, like, come and let me know. So the Vice Admiral of the opposing fleet is actually Admiral Pallion, who was the captain of Admiral Thrawn's ship in Heir to the Empire. So it's nice to see him again, because he's like a reasonable guy. Like, I mean, he's an Imperial, but I don't know, I always liked him. I thought he seemed like a reasonable bro. He hears what she has to say, and he likes it. He's like, yes, this is what I'm talking about. Like, let's bring the Empire back, finally. Hello. So he hooks up with her, and they hatch a plan. He uses his sway to get all of these admirals and warlords and whatnot together. He gets them all around a desk, and Dala presents them with this. She says, okay, so the Empire is like scattered. You guys have made a mess of this. The Emperor would be embarrassed. We need to unify and consolidate our power so we can actually do damage to the New Republic, who are our real enemies. So you have 3 hours to decide. So she locks the door and locks everybody in this room to decide who's going to be the leader. 2 hours and 45 minutes later, she is fed up. She's like, oh my god, you idiots, you idiots. I did not want to have to take power because I never wanted power. I just wanted to be a soldier of the Empire I love so much. But under the rule of any of you, the Empire will surely fail. So she throws Pallion a breath mask, and she puts one on herself and presses a button under the table, and poisonous gas kills all of these leaders. She subsequently goes and starts gathering what is now her Imperial forces. Okay, Dala is our new leader. And she calls like a big rally. She has all of the ships come to this one planet near the core worlds where she can call a big rally, where she can disclose the big overall plan for the Empire's next move. Meanwhile, on Yavin 4, it's graduation for Kip Duran and Dorsk 81. And Dorsk wants to return to his home planet. Okay, little backstory about Dorsk, if you didn't read the other books. So, he's a clone. His name is Dorsk 81 because his planet had decided, like a long time ago, that they had reached their ultimate perfection. So they stopped procreating and just started cloning themselves. So he wants to go back to his planet to see if he can help them be more progressive. And Kip is going to roll along with him and then try to seek out the rest of the Empire. Luke and Callista are trying to come up with a plan to get her force powers back. And Luke decides they're going to take a romantic getaway, just the two of them, to a water quarry on a comet, which actually sounds super romantic and cool. So they go to this water quarry, but like almost immediately when they get there, Callista's like, I don't feel the force here. I don't have any ties to this place. I'm not getting it. So why don't you take me to where you felt the force the strongest? Why don't you retrace me through your journey? So Luke's like, alright. So they decide to go to Dagobah, first of all. I'm just so annoyed by this love story. Because she was a ghost, right? Like, she was dead in the first book. And now she doesn't have the force. And she basically gives Luke like an ultimatum, like, if I don't get the Force back, then I don't think we can be together, because if we ever had children, I couldn't bear the thought of them not having the Force and you being so powerful, and I could never have them feel the way I feel, and you're so much better than me, and blah, blah, blah. I guess I understand insecure garbage, because, like, I'm guilty of that too sometimes, so maybe I'm just projecting, which is why I dislike her so much. Truth hurts. But also, I'm kind of annoyed with Luke's behavior surrounding this whole love thing, because he kind of does, like, seem to look down on her a little bit. Like, oh, she's just not, like, he never says it, but he thinks, like, oh, she just has a mental block. She needs to get over this mental block so that she can access the Force. Like, why isn't she trying? And it's like, bro, like, maybe there's something else going on here. A, and B, she's not lesser than you. They keep, like, talking about how they can't wait till they can be together. They can't wait till they can really be together in the Force like they used to be. And I'm just like, you're together now. So they decide to go to Dagobah, and don't find much there besides, I mean, Callista kind of throws a fit and attacks some bats, and the dark side actually breaks through to her a little bit, which freaks her out, and Luke, it kind of excites Luke, because he's like, oh yeah, there's hope. I mean, if you can access the dark side, you can definitely access the light. And Callista's like, WTF, mate? So then they decide to go to Hoth, where they are attacked by an army of organized Wampas, led by a one-armed Wampa. And it destroyed their ship, in short, so now they left the planet almost immediately, and now they're floating around in space with almost no life support. Leia had heard Luke's Force call from a distance, sort of like she did on Bespin, you know, when he was hanging there handless, right? So she had heard that, so her and Han head off towards the Hoth system to find Callista and Luke, and they do, and decide to take them back to Yavin 4. After leaving Combe, right, which is Dorsk 81's home planet, Kip and Dorsk 81 were going into the core worlds to figure out what was happening with the Empire, and of course they just happen upon this rally. They hear Dala's two-step plan, which is one of the generals is going to go take a bunch of Star Destroyers and strike blows at a bunch of planets, while Admiral Dala and Vice Admiral Palion go to Yavin 4 to destroy the Jedi Academy. So Kip flies away, he sends a message to the New Republic that Yavin 4 is being attacked. Kip and Dorsk 81 make it to Yavin 4 pretty much before everybody else, but they're able to warn the trainees there. Minutes after they arrive to Yavin 4, Captain Palion, or Vice Admiral Palion, arrives with 17 Star Destroyers who all start sending down AT-STs and ground assault vehicles and TIE fighters, basically just trying to level any structure that they find on the planet, and of course anyone on the planet. So all of the students, with Dorsk 81 at the head, make a plan. He goes to the top of one of the Masasi temples, whereas all the other students, including Kip, are inside the temple, and they are summoning all of their Force power and directing it into Dorsk, so Dorsk can gather the energy of all of their Force powers and channel it through himself to push the 17 Star Destroyers out of the Yavin system. Out of the Yavin system. The whole system. Crazy cool. However, the overload of the Force and the power that had been channeled through him ended his life. Dorsk 81 dies a hero. I cried when this happened. Dorsk had so much character development in the Jedi Academy trilogy, and then throughout this book, just I was really starting to really like him. I was really thinking I was going to see a lot more of him. I actually wore these earrings for him. R.I.P. brother. Luke and Callista arrive shortly thereafter with Han and Leia and the Falcon. And pretty much as soon as they get there, Dala arrives. She's like, well, where's Palian? Palian was supposed to be here, but I guess I'll just take over. So I have a Super Star Destroyer. I'll finish these MFers off. Now Luke and Callista go down to the surface to help the other trainees combat, and Luke's like, I'll protect you, Callista. And that kind of strikes a bad chord with her. So she makes a plan to sneak off. She hijacks one of the fallen TIE fighters, repairs it real quick, and then flies up to the Super Star Destroyer. So she gets into a docking bay and sets up like a chain of detonators so it will destroy the Super Star Destroyer's core. Okay, so it's only just a few minutes till that's going to happen. She decides she needs to go find Dala for herself so that she can put an end to business. Very soon, all of the TIE fighters that are in the hangar bay start a chain detonating reaction, right? And blow a huge portion out of the Super Star Destroyer, like destroys the engines. Like the ship is down, yo, it's down. So Dala's like, okay, everybody get to your escape pods. Pretty much at that moment, the New Republic fleet arrives, so Dala knows it's over, and she's like, oh my god, another failure. Like, am I never gonna stop failing? So she goes on her way to an escape pod. But right when she gets there, Callista is right in her way, and Callista's like, I'm gonna take you down. At this point, Callista allows the dark side to overtake her. So she's deflecting Dala's blaster bolts, and she's using her rage. She wants to strike Dala down, but Dala flips a switch on her gun to stun, and stuns Callista. Down on the planet, Luke realizes Callista is gone and is freaking out, thinking maybe she got into trouble. And then he senses a huge dark side swell in the Force, and he looks up in the sky and he sees the Star Destroyer kind of falling into Yavin, and realizes that Callista is up there and she's doing some dark side stuff. In the Hoth asteroid belt, Wedge and his fleet are chasing the Darksaber. Darksaber is flying through this asteroid belt, right? And there's a giant asteroid in front of it. So Durga commands the pilot to use the super beam to destroy the asteroid so they can go right through it. And right as the pilot hits the button, the engines like putter and die. And nothing happens, and the Darksaber crashes into the giant asteroid, destroying itself. Therefore, having the shortest ever non-victory run of a ship ever. Obviously, Yavin 4 is safe. All the trainees go back to rebuilding the temples that were destroyed. And Luke is severely depressed because Callista is dead. Tion, the little ukulele lady, brings Luke a message and said, oh, this is a private message for you. So he opens it, and of course, who is it? It's a message from Callista that says, I need to do this on my own. I don't want to be in your way. We can't be together until I figure out how to get the Force back on my own. So I'm striking out. We will be together again someday, though. I haven't given up hope. See you around, I guess. I'm sorry, I have such a bad attitude about that relationship. Okay, I think it's because of the way it started. Actually, you know what? No, it's because of the way it started and because of the way that it's going. It just does not seem like success. That's pretty much it. It was pretty cool, man. I'm into it. I'm tentative to start the next book, but we'll see how it goes. Thanks for watching.